Well, hello and welcome to the Microsoft Megabyte. And geez, I'm shocked to see that this is our 51st episode. And I'm thrilled that to help us carry the podcast over the hill here, we have a stellar guest today, Dewan Whipple. Now, I've asked him to join me today because he has a rather unique background compared to most professionals who sell and demo technology to customers. And that background is, well, Brian, why don't you just let him introduce him yourself? Okay, yeah, you know what, Dewan? Hey man, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, Brian?
What's happening? Where are you joining us from today? And what was your role before you started working for Microsoft?
Yeah, cool. I'm joining from DC metro area, Germantown, Maryland. I live about maybe 30 minutes outside of DC. Joining prior to Microsoft, I came from the luxury background at Coach.
Okay, so is luxury considered its own industry in that field, or is it like luxury fashion accessories? I mean, how do you talk about that industry?
Yeah, so I would say luxury comes into lifestyle. So It could be handbags, accessories, toiletries, whatever that is, it's within that environment. So it would be luxury lifestyle.
Okay, then. So before we get into some of the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk to you about today, what interested you first in going down that road and going into that luxury lifestyle industry?
Yeah. So I have a key connection with every place that I've worked. I actually started my retail journey off at Kroger. I started off as a bagger, and that was definitely not for me. And so I took a retail part-time job at American Eagle and then did visual merchandising for them. And that just really lit my fire. And I remember I have
to stop you there. I have to interrupt there. What? Because some people do not enjoy Viz merch. Right. Some people are not a fan of visual merchandising at all. And you say it really lit your fire. Talk to me about that, Dewan. What about Viz merch lit your fire?
So walking into a store and seeing the concept or seeing how it comes to life, I love telling a story, and that tells a story. I remember being young and going into a store and redoing a table or fixing the mannequin. And I'm like, we can do something else because it's a silent seller. Like if nobody is there, that will tell the story, and that could change if somebody's going to purchase something or not. So that's where I kind of got the love of visual merchandising at a young age. But from American Eagle, I had an opportunity to go into leadership. And I remember talking to my manager at the time. My manager before left because they got another assignment at another store. New manager comes in and is like, you're signed off. We want to get you there. And he's like, but this is not going to be right for you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he made me think about something I never thought about. He was like, American Eagle is not going to be good for you. You're not going to be a good fit as a leader at American Eagle. You need to be in a luxury environment. You shop luxury, you talk luxury, you are luxury. I was like, but I love American Eagle. He was like, you can love it, but that's not going to be the next thing for you. And so I took that to heart, and I remember it. My cousin actually found, because I'm from Atlanta. I've been in the DMV area for 8 years, but before lived in Atlanta. And my cousin actually found that True Religion brand jeans. True Religion brand jeans at the time was really popular. Really
I remember. We all remember those years.
Yes, everybody was wearing them. And so my cousin saw that they were hiring. And so I went in, talked to the manager, did everything, and got hired on the spot. And that was my start in luxury. And I fell in love with it. Had a short amount of time. I told them, hey, I'm actually leaving. I'm not going to be able to live in Atlanta anymore. I'm going to move to the DC area. And looked online and saw Coach was hiring. And when I was younger, I would always go out with my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt. And I would always go with them. And they always taught me, when it comes to luxury, you buy things because of the quality, not because of the name, but because it'll last long. And so that's kind of my same thing with Microsoft. Like Microsoft has stood the test of the time and really great products. And so for me, it was a no-brainer to go to Coach because I grew up around it, learned about it. And I never saw myself working there. But once I did, it was amazing. And now it's brought me here to Microsoft.
Okay, so you are one of those people who really thinks about brands as sort of what's the story behind the story there? What is the promise that logo is trying to make? And are they doing that promise justice? Are they living up to the promises that they're making? So I'm sure you are someone who I would love to go to a shopping mall with you and see you get so unbelievably upset and happy as you walk past different brands and be like, look how they're doing that. No, what are they trying to tell your customer? I do the same thing with customer service at like restaurants and stuff too. We're gonna have to set up this date. But the transition then from fashion, from luxury to technology is interesting. And so let's talk briefly about that now. What switched your gears, or what made you at least interested in the idea of, you know what, I think I could have an impact in the world of tech too?
Yeah, so it's always been one of those things that I remember my parents' generation, it was all about the cell phone companies and automotive. And for my generation, it's tech. And so one of the biggest things for me is like, what's the next biggest thing, but what's something that I can really have a career in and be able to, you know, take my personal career to the next level. And when I thought about it, it was Microsoft. And I actually was recruited to by Kara Rowe, plug there. She's amazing people leader. And, you know, I know a lot of people at Microsoft love her and know her, but she's the reason I came to Microsoft. And just hearing about the culture, hearing about how they really put their people first, and hearing about, you know, you come to Microsoft, like even when I first got here, I would be on calls and I would be the person with the lowest amount of time spent at Microsoft so far. People have 15, 20, 10 years, and people really have a grown love and respect for Microsoft, and they stay here. And so I wanted to understand the reason behind that, and now I'm here. It's been great so far.
So let's hear then from you, from your background specifically, Dwan, like, are there big differences from what separates a really effective luxury brand rep? I don't know, associate, store associate, you know, sales professional, let's just say a sales professional, a really successful sales professional in the luxury space versus a really successful sales professional in the technology space? What would you say some differences might be, and what would you say some similarities might be between those two high performing candidates?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the difference. The difference is when you come into shopping, anything related to shopping, even if it isn't luxury, people are reading your body language and your cues, looking at what you're wearing. Like, for example, if I'm talking to you and asking lifestyle questions, getting to know you, and I see you have an earring or you have on a watch, that I can add those additional pieces into the conversation and show you those additional things. In tech, you really can't do that, like, because that's really not going to help you out. So
people don't. Other than wearables, people aren't wearing their technology.
100%. And so that I just would think those are the two differences when it comes to it. But as far as similarities, it's 100% the same. It's all about getting to know the customer, keeping the customer at the center of the connection, and finding out what is going to be the best for the customer based on their lifestyle or their preferences. And so it's been great just to interact with customers and 100% honest, use whatever I've learned in my luxury background, and it translates over just in a different way. But at the end of the day, it's about keeping the customer at the center and getting to know them.
You could even zoom out far enough to say a good sales professional is a good sales professional, period, regardless of, you know, a good relationship builder, a good storyteller, a good, whatever the case may be, is just good at it, period. So what were some of your big learnings that you were excited to take over to technology, into Microsoft from luxury? Meaning, in your opinion, how do you ask great questions? How do you tell a great product story? How do you involve and incorporate lifestyle into a purchasing decision? What is your sales philosophy, would you say, if you had to define it? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
no, you're totally fine. And I kind of loop it in, and I was even sharing this with my team. I call it the ABCs of selling. So approach, build the sale, and then close the sale and invite them back. And I've learned that from my luxury background. Not exactly 100% like that, because we had a connection wheel from my past that we would use, and it was you went through each thing, but it was also a wheel because you could meet the customer at any point. And so I've always carried that with me. But in the approach, you really want to spend the time to ask those lifestyle questions, like you said, and really get to know the customer, find out what they're into and, you know, what they're looking for, and how you can tie that back into the purchase that they're making today or what they're looking to make. The biggest thing I would say too within that A of approach is also actively listening. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up on or have issue, because we hear what we want to hear sometimes, not necessarily listening actively to what the customer is really looking for. And so if we do that A correctly, we approach and then we actively listen, we actually can tie that information back to the customer and say, well, hey, I suggested this because you said A, B, C, and D. These are things you said you were looking for. And we can also use that if we're actively listening correctly to help build the sale and add on additional items that tie back to their lifestyle and their personal preferences. And then going to close the sale, wrap it up. But then we need to invite them to come back because we don't want them to just shop today. How can we get them back again? And how can we continue to add on and build their wardrobe or closet aspect?
Yeah, their closet. Nice. What comes to mind as you talk about active listening, the listening to, and this is just, man, I would love to ask you, how do you cultivate this skill in others? Because this is a tricky one. Basically it becomes a relationship seminar, doesn't it? Talking about this stuff. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about customers walking up and you have a typical common introductory conversation with a customer. They say, yeah, I'm looking for this laptop. I saw it on your website. Hold on, and they pull out their phone to look it up. And then they say, so, as they're looking it up, they do something like this, like, Jesus, this thing's so slow. Hold on 1 second. Okay. You just saw that this customer is frustrated by technology being slow. Even though we're not selling them a phone today, they didn't come in looking for a phone. They're not we're not bashing whatever phone they have in their hand and telling them we got a new one. Although maybe maybe phones are an opportunity today. Yeah. But they're here looking for a laptop. But you just saw them get upset about their phone being sluggish, and yet they're coming in and asking for a $299 value laptop. That's your opportunity from what they didn't express to you openly, but you say, hey, you really love it when technology is fast, don't you? When something slows down, it aggravates you. You bet your bottom dollar that customer's going to say, oh, hell yeah, that's me. Yeah. Because now you have the opportunity to sell them something that is perhaps bigger than what they bargained for initially, because now you got them. You understand one of their needs that they didn't even express to you. And that's a level of active listening that I've yet to crack the code on how to train that out effectively. Yeah. How do you do it?
So you bring up a good point because it is hard. And even to the example you just used, actively listening is not just using your ears, it's using your eyes and like being engaged with the customer, seeing what they're doing and keeping the body contact, the eyes contact, like that's all in there. But the biggest thing I would say is any customer is like your best friend. You want to talk to them and you want to have that feeling like, oh, I've known you forever. Like just get to know them on a personal level, because when you get to know them on a personal level, you kind of break down those walls and then you can find that stuff out. You can go into it a little bit deeper. And what I always say is think about good, better, and best. And think about how, if a customer is coming in, like you said, for a value laptop, how can I show them that value laptop, but also show them good and better, and to say, hey, this is the range. This is what you said you were looking for. But hey, I overheard you say that your phone was going really slow. That same thing you're experiencing with your phone, I have to be honest with you, could happen with your laptop. Yeah. So let me show you better and let me show you best, just so you can see. And I want you to get an idea. And again, no pressure. Like you at the end of the day, I'm not the one making the payments. I'm not the one buying this. You are. So we got to figure out what's going to be the best for you today. But I also want to let you know, if we decide on those other options, these are some of the payment options we have. Like we have different things that we can do within that. And so I think breaking that wall down, really having that conversation with the customer and being real and transparent and, treating them like a friend, because if my friend came in to buy a laptop, I want them to get the best of what's going to work for them. I don't want them to have to come back 2 years or a year later and say, hey, I got this laptop, but it didn't work and do everything I needed it to do. So now it's time to get another. I want them to leave out the gate, have everything that they need. And I always say too, think about it. When we were younger, our parents bought us gifts. Like, let's say they bought us the new Xbox or what have you. They got the console, the controller, the games. Like we had everything set up. When a customer leaves our store, they should have that same experience and they should leave with everything fully wrapped up.
Dang it. I was just going to ask you, how do you want a customer to feel when they're done interacting with you? And you kind of made it sound like it's the holidays. Like it's a gift. You want them to feel like they've received a full gift that they can now be proud of. Okay, I'm putting myself in the mind of an 18, 19, 20-year-old who may be listening to this and has been selling technology now for 2 or 3 months and is trying to level up their sales game. And so they're listening to a podcast like this, which is awesome. But I'm thinking that they're listening to you. If you also put yourself into that time machine and listen to you now as you would have been, 10 years ago or something, and listen to how confident you sound, how smooth you are with relationship building, and how you just make them your best friend, bro. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
And then that is such good advice, of course, but it is intimidating. Let's be honest. It's intimidating to someone just getting a start and be like, I think I'm good at sales. I think I'm going to be a sales pro. I think I'm going to. How do I just make someone my best friend? I'm 20 years old. This customer walked in as 63 and they're like an established real estate mogul and they like know their stuff and they got 17 different email addresses they're checking every 5 minutes. And I'm supposed to just like pal around with this guy? How do I do this? What advice do you give to that level of nerves? And I'm asking you this because I imagine with your background, this situation happens a lot in luxury, where you're dealing with customers that are outside of your demographic, outside of your comfort zone, outside of your barbecue setting, and you need to connect with them yet. So how do you connect with people who are outside of your comfort zone? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I would say the people who have the biggest issues are the ones that can't connect, like who can't close a sale. Like when you get to the bottom of it, they don't know how to connect. And so starting off with those lifestyle questions, and again, not putting yourself at the center, but putting the customer at the center. Like, again, we're focused on Sammy Joe. So whoever Sammy Joe is, when they come in, we're focused on them. So how can we get to know them a little bit more to make them a little bit more relaxed? Hey, if we see they have on a polo shirt and, oh my God, I love your shirt. Everybody loves a compliment. So start off there, like even with a compliment. And that's one thing in the luxury environment. Always start with a compliment. If you don't have the easy way in, start with a compliment. Always start with going, hey, when's the last time you've been in the store? Let me show you some of the new stuff. Because as soon as you crack that wall, you let them in. And to be honest with you, in the luxury environment, women, easy. 100% easy to talk to go. But the husband that comes in that's buying a Valentine's Day gift, Christmas gift, birthday gift,
giving you 2-word answers, giving you nothing to work with, and expecting a perfect solution.
100% nothing. But if you can break that wall and really get to know them on a personal level, that guy will end up spending more than a woman will. So studies show men shop less than women, but spend more. But it's because women do more shopping than men do. So a male will come in and he may buy shoes, a bag, a belt, a wallet, like get all this stuff. He may not be back for 6 to 12 months. Where a woman will come in, she is probably going to be back next week. The week after that, like she frequents.
Either way, it's an important relationship. Either way, it's a boom, big purchase. See you next year. But it's still the ticket amount is annually perhaps similar. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, 100%.
Different relationships to build. What do you do though when you don't have a lot of time? When especially I'm thinking of a hot sales floor, holiday season, and you have these awesome demos for sure to show on Surfaces or Microsoft 365 or Windows 11. And you want to spend an hour with each customer. I'm sure that's how you are. That's how I am too. I want to talk about your life, how your kids doing, what's going on. But we don't have time. And guess what? Your GM isn't going to appreciate you waxing philosophical with every customer who walks into your department. So what do you do then in that compressed time slot to still maintain the humanity that you clearly have, but in 30-second chunks?
100%. So you have to know the difference between non-peak and peak. So when it's non-peak, we can spend that time relationship selling, getting to know the customer, spend an hour, know about the family, like get everything in. When we leave, it's like, oh my God, I made a new friend. But during peak, we have to know, okay, we have to dial it up. And we have to do things a little bit differently. So some of the demos that I would have showed, how about I give them homework? If we're looking at this device, how about I give them homework and say, hey, I'm going to leave it on this demo for you to try this stuff out. I'm going to check on this other customer. I'll be right back. And a lot of times,
be sure to check out hit the design ideas button and let me know what you see. I'll be right back to check on that. Just give them a task. I'll be right back.
The biggest thing too is when people end up doing it themselves, it's easier for them to fall in love with it too versus someone else doing it. So it's just knowing how to handle multiple customers. But I would say the biggest thing is giving homework. And who doesn't like homework? I can do this. Yeah,
give them a task. Give them a little challenge. Yeah, if you do it with good intent, then that's a great takeaway. I think give them a little bit of homework, and you'll be right back to check up on it in just a couple minutes.
But the biggest thing is you have to let them know and say, hey, I'm going to give you you that I'm going to be right back because I'm going to check on this customer. If you just leave, you probably lost the sale. But if you do that, nobody's going to say no that you can't go and help somebody else. They understand.
Dewan, already it's been a treasure trove of good context and perspective. Well, I think it's two parts. One, of course, it's nice to get new tips and new strategies from different minds and different perspectives. But another, it's also nice to know that even an industry as seemingly far away as tech, as fashion and luxury is, that what makes great is still very much the same. What makes it for a great experience is still the same skill set. So build on these skill sets. Active listening, closing is so tough. Dewan, that's why I'm not in store, because I feel the pain of the closing struggle. All you have to do is sometimes just utter the words. Just say the words. Hey, what color do you want this in? Do you like Surface Pro 8 or Surface Laptop Studio? Which one do you want me to wrap up for you today? Just say the words is sometimes all it is, but I struggle with that. I get it, that it is not natural for some people to do that. So building on those skills, it doesn't matter if 10 years from now you're selling RVs. It's going to be the same skill stack that helps you become very effective at that.
100%. And I have to be honest, like coming over, I was nervous because I was like, how am I going to be able to translate in? And using the things from my backgrounds and over my career throughout this time, it's been super successful. Like I have customers that will, follow me on Instagram, like after an interaction. So it's very meaningful. But true to what you said, no matter where you are, selling is selling. Getting to know a customer is getting to know a customer. It's just making sure that you continue to hone that in, focus on it, and continue to grow yourself in that, and continue to really learn about the product and learn about the customer base, and you'll be unstoppable.
Dewan Whipple, I was going to ask you to summarize and to do a little outro there, but you just did it perfectly. Thank you so much for giving us your time here on the Megabyte. You better come back because we're going to dive into some more of these soft skills, because I think you're the guy to do it.
We can make this like a few parts.
Yeah,
so I would love
it's going to be, even if we don't hit record and we're just sitting here on a Teams call, rattling back and forth about customer stories. That's probably what a fun Saturday night might be like for us. So here we go. Thanks, Dewan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This has been the Microsoft Megabyte Podcast, a training tool for Microsoft field team members and sales professionals across the country, produced by Microsoft employees.